Welcome back, everybody. We continue on here, Twin Peaks in Tempe, having a great time. And the professor is joining us right now. That is indeed Rick Horrow. And, Rick, I'll start first. It's Rockin' Minutes with Jimmy B today. And I'll start first with just your thoughts about what this NBA Finals is going to mean to the television network, which is ABC, ESPN. Are they truly unhappy with the matchup that they got?
Oh, I don't care about that. What are you, nuts? I live in South Florida. Listen, 30 years of toiling in the field. We finally got back-to-back next Wednesday, Friday, basketball, Thursday, Saturday, basketball. And, look, I started the Sports Authority in 1981. It took till 1988 to get the arena done. We cobbled together a small amount of federal money for a renovation of the neighborhood. We had a local team of people that didn't want to step up for a franchise. Ted Arison, the cruise magnate, finally said, yeah, let's do it. He thought it would be $24 million. David Stern said $32.5. We were in a meeting in 88. He left the office, came back about 10 minutes later and said, yeah, you know what? It's an outrageous price. But if I want to buy a franchise, I went over to the other side of the street to try to buy the NBA franchises where they sold them there, but they don't do that. You do it. So it's a deal. And the Heat was born. That's what happened there. And 3 championship titles later. Then the Panthers, same arena started. Wayne Huizenga, $50 million. And then they went to another arena, a lot of different names, BB&T, Office Depot. Name doesn't matter. Now, 2 A seeds ran into the playoffs at the last minute.
Wow. Fired up back there. I can tell, Florida boy.
Hey, Rick.
How's that? Is that good?
That was good. Yeah.
As you talk about franchises and Denver and the Denver Nuggets, entering this year, their estimated franchise value was $1.93, which was $1 million, which is 22nd in the NBA. If they win the title, how much of an increase do you think that brings to a franchise, especially one that's never won it before?
Well, that's the only kind of thing that they needed because their market is great. It's a mid to higher market. Corporations are a lot there. Ball Arena, controlled by the Anschutz, family, who owns the Nuggets too. So everything's set for success with them, except they've just never been there before. So I think they have a lot to gain on the kind of trophy value side of this. And the Heat's been there before, and how many times have we heard this rust versus rest argument? I'm tired of it. It's enough of that. Well, we'll see what happens. It affects each team differently. And I'd love to see what Djokovic. I'd love to see this guy who absolutely is a great rebounder, but he also plays tennis. Oh, no, it's a different guy. So, right? The bottom line is it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this series. And, it's the hockey's going to be great, too.
So how is that whole market right now? Is it buzzing? Is one ahead of the other when it comes to who's getting front page and all that stuff?
Well, it's interesting. We've had the Heat since '88. Our first games, I remember sitting courtside and being really excited about bringing the team into town. They lost their first 17 games. They didn't get the memo that they got to be competitive. But they caught up over years, 3 championships. The Panthers went to the finals with Van Beesbrook and Scott Mellenby killed a rat with his stick. They called it a rat trick. Now everybody throws those rats on the ice. That's how it started. And so, by the way, we in South Florida we're dumb. We looked at the store and looked for disgusting animals. And the octopus was already taken in Detroit, so next was rats. So we took the rats and we threw them on the ice. And so the bottom line of all of that is we have a franchise that's won championships, a franchise that's been struggling for identity. If you ask me right now, I'd say it's 2/3, 1/3 Heat. But, we'll see rest of the week. It's going to be a very schizophrenic town because Wednesday, Friday, it's a basketball town. Thursday, Saturday, it's a hockey town.
And that double whammy that you guys have back there, you look at, you just talked about in Denver, that economic impact per se, per area, You look at the Super Bowls, you look at some of the NCAAs, that kind of thing. What kind of dollars and cents you talking about as far as Miami's concerned? You get a double whammy going on there.
What the hell you keep talking about Denver for? Look, I'm from Florida. I don't give a damn about Denver. I don't give a damn about ABC. What else? Why are you agitating me? Okay.
I just said you got Miami. You get the double whammy. You got the hockey. You got the basketball. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it in Spanish too if you need me to. I'm just saying.
Well, it would be better than in English because I clearly don't listen to you in English. It's been a long. You earned the right not to be listened to. I guarantee you, it doesn't happen overnight. Double whammy. And the bottom line of all of this, and I mean this seriously, is as a guy who kind of helped put this all together, you take tremendous pride watching second and third generation folks. And you know what it is in Phoenix. Everybody's from somewhere else. Second and third generation folks with Panthers jerseys and Heat shirts explaining to their kids what it was like in the old days. You don't see that a lot here. So I think South Florida wins economically and culturally, even if both teams get swept. They're not gonna, because who knows what's going to happen. I wouldn't bet on either of these series because you don't know which team is going to show up.
Hey, for the first time in 20 years, the game's going to start before 9 o'clock Eastern. 30 minutes earlier, tonight, which is great. You think that's going to maybe continue on? These 9 o'clock starts are rough for the East Coast, especially you older guys that need to get to bed before that. You guys watch the 9 o'clock news, not the 10 o'clock news. Nothing?
He hung up on
Nothing? Nothing? My mentor, Rick Horrow?
No, I'm going to let you stew in your own ignorance for a little while.
I'm right. I'm right.
I was going to see what Dead Air would do. Now Jimmy V was all nervous because he didn't know we've done that before. That's our gig we've done a long time ago, right? Yeah, old man. Yeah,
that's Rick freaking Horrow, Rock.
Come on, man. You got to respect it. I can't wait for an 8:30 game here. And look, it's always a trade-off, right? Remember when the NFL was tinkering with Monday nights and do you do it at 8:50? Well, that's great for the West Coast, but not good for the East Coast. So it's kind of a delicate balance. And, Denver's always kind of in the middle. It's the Mountain 2 hours. But I'm kind of glad that the games are starting that early. Major League Baseball games were at 8:07, but the difference with the World Series this year is I think the games are going to be 3 hours. They're not going to be 3.5 or 4 like they were. They're not going to be 2 or 2.5 like the regular season games are. But I can't wait. I know we're talking about basketball and hockey, but how about the game length times in baseball? Isn't that great?
It's been great. Yeah, what are they averaging? 220, 225, somewhere around there. I mean, that's real strong, and I think the players are engaged in it, and I think they're supporting it. There hasn't been much backlash, at least the last couple of months. I think initially because it was so new, but I think it's been a welcome addition to the game.
Yeah, you guys are playing well, and everything looks really good, and frankly, it's kind of a fun time to be a sports person right now, especially down here. And again, I think, to go back to the kind of topic that dominates this, is even if both teams end up 0-2 coming back, the 2-2-1-1-1 finally in the NBA. Remember when it used to be 2-3-2, and I think that's the thing. World Series still does it. And because of 2-2-1-1-1, you're 0-2, but you're coming back to a friendly place. And I know the Heat has been, as you said, 6-0 to avoid that 0-2. But I'm not too terribly worried. Although, ask me next week if I'd be worried if they're both 0-2. But right now, I'm just soaking it in and listening to your asinine, inane questions.
All right. So since the doors have been open, so it's about 4:42 there. But that's
yes,
right,
sir.
Right? 4:42. So will you take a power nap before this game, knowing that it starts at 8:30?
No,
or you don't need to do that now. That half hour helps.
I'm going to go to Blue Hair Central. I'm going to order the early bird special at a cafeteria, and I'm going to go sit there, and I'm going to have 5 or 6 helpings before I go and watch it on TV. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take some lima beans and stuff them in my pocket, and then give them to my dog.
There you go. Rick, we love you, buddy. Thanks for having some fun with us today.
This was the last time I'm ever going to be on with you guys, so I'll see you next week.
Come on, man. No.
Rick, it's funny. We were real quick, Rick. I was pulling some sound this morning because we're doing a throwback Thursday later in the show. And interesting, we did these Rockin' Minucci's back in 2010, and you were considered our best guest of the year back then. And I have sound, and I was going to play it today, and I just have time. So next week I'll play it on a Throwback Thursday for you. But it was really fun, and it was identical to what just happened. We were just literally ripping each other. It was great. Well, things haven't changed in 12, 13 years.
That hasn't changed. Promise me you'll double my compensation. Oh, sorry.
Definitely. Okay. Definitely. We got a new bank. We'll make sure you get direct deposit it now.
That's great. Wonderful. All right, man. See you next week.
Thank you, Rick.
Bye-bye.
See you, buddy. That's Rick Horrow. Follow him on Twitter. He's the sports professor. You can follow him on Twitter at Rick Horrow. Well, it is